What's an easy way to get intermediate level students improvising? By the time that they get to an intermediate level, students are typically playing more complex pieces and longer pieces, so it can feel harder trying to step away from the music or adding this in as a extra. But at the same time, it's so important that our students are able to do more than just play what's on the page. In this video, I'm going to share how I combined sight reading and transposing with no prep to help my intermediate student be able to improvise in a new way. If we haven't met before, I'm Rosemarie. I'm a teacher and composer, and in these videos, I'm sharing different ways that you can either apply admin strategies or teaching strategies to help you have the studio that you absolutely love. This strategy came about because one of my students wanted to continue sight reading. She's an intermediate level student, but very busy, and so we try to include sight reading so that it's easier and faster for her to learn the other songs that she really wants to learn. But she also said she wanted to transpose. This brought back so many memories for me, and I was really excited when she said this was a goal that she had, because when I was a teen, I didn't get to transpose or improvise in lessons. My teachers were fantastic when it came to things on a page. They taught me artistry, they taught me all sorts of wonderful things, but transposing was not one of them. However, I had played on a praise and worship team at my parents' church, and the person that was our leader was kind of infamous for, on our very last time that we would play a song before playing in front of the congregation, she would go, "Oh, you know what, actually, yeah, let's transpose it into this key. It'll flow better into the next song." And I would have, 2 lines of a song, half a song if I was lucky, to figure out what the chords were and what the song was in the new key before playing it in front of everyone. So going back to my student, of course, it brought back these great memories, and she's not in the same situation, but I do think it's really important for students to learn how to transpose. And I would argue that this is a form of improvisation, especially if you're going to do it in this way. So Sam Visits Peter in a Birdcage is a perfect choice for this type of activity, this type of transposing. It is multiple levels below what my student can play, so it works as a sight reading exercise. It's very chord based. When you're transposing, especially at the beginning, it makes it so much easier if you can see the chords, and then the jump to transposing in a new key is a lot easier. Here's the first 2 lines of the song. Listen and you tell me, what did I do differently? Now for the transposing bit. So while there is more to that song, did you figure out what I did? If you guessed that I took it from a major key to a minor key, you are absolutely right. This is one of the easiest ways to transpose. Unlike when I was transposing from, say, the key of A major to the key of D major, this allows your student to still see all the same notes. All they're doing is changing a few accidentals. So this is a perfect improvisation, especially for your busy students. And to be able to take that sight reading exercise up a little notch, right? In terms of theory levels, there's a few different ways that you can approach this. You can teach it by rote, you can have your student figure it out by ear, or you can use the circle of fifths. The third option is what my student and I ended up doing. However, I have other students where they have a fantastic ear. Pulling out the circle of fifths, it just ends up confusing them, at least at the early stages. And for other students, they really need that visual, and so using my overhead camera, or if you're in person, you're sitting at the piano and they're watching, it makes it a lot easier. We want to make sure that it's not a one-size-fits-all situation for this type of improvisation. Really use whatever fits your student the best or whatever their preferred learning style is. If it's rote, what you're going to do is just play very small sections and point out, or have your student point out, what are the very small changes you're making. If they're figuring it out by ear, I would recommend get them to play in the minor key, or if the song was in a minor key and they're changing it to major, I would get them to play in both keys. And to be honest, even with rote or circle of fifths, you can do this. But in terms of ear, very important, run through the scale first. That way they can hear and see on the keyboard what those different accidentals are. And then in terms of the circle of fifths, an oldie but a goodie, right? One of my students, she has a physical version of this. She has a digital version of this. And yes, I still occasionally screen share my version of the circle of fifths. She is very analytical. We've tried doing scales by ear. That did not go so well. She needs a much more structured approach in terms of how it's presented. And so now she's at a stage where she can play her scales and figure them out, oftentimes by ear. But years ago, that was not the case. And so I know she prefers an analytical approach, and it's fantastic. You can do this two ways. Either you can use the circle of fifths right off the bat. If the song is in the key of G major, for example, then you could have the student look at G major and then find G minor on the circle of fifths. The other option is the 3 semitone or 3 half step pattern. Like from G minor, they're going up 3 semitones. 1, 2, 3, they're in E flat major, and then looking it up on your circle of fifths. So there's some options there, depending on how much you want to focus on relative majors and minors, or whether you just want to use the circle of fifths and get in there playing. So I hope that you're able to use this improvisation tip, this transposing tip, in a wide variety of ways in your studio. And as you can see, it requires zero prep. It was already a sight reading activity or song that I had given my student. We were just changing it out. This particular song, Sam Visits Peter in a Birdcage, it's from the Sam's Life collection. I would say before you have a student change from major to minor, maybe just do a very quick playthrough and see, does it sound good? Some songs, even when they're chord-based, they don't necessarily sound great once they're put into the opposite mode. But you know what? That's even a fun thing you can do in lesson. If you haven't had time, try it out. And if it sounds horrible, then you can have a conversation about, well, perhaps this is why the composer decided on major or minor for this particular song. Use this as an opportunity to really discuss not just the music theory, but also what exactly is it that the composer has decided? What decisions are they making that make the song this song? For example, Sam Visits Peter in a Birdcage. Those are two very different stories of what is happening in that birdcage when it's major versus minor. And so you can have fun with it. If you are looking for some really great sight reading songs for your intermediate level students, check out Sam's Life. Or if you're looking for rote and reading pieces through over to intermediate, same collection. There's actually 2 levels of each song in there. At the same time, be sure to listen to some of these other songs that work really well for this. Transposing and improvising tip that I covered in this video today. At the same time, be sure to listen to some of these other songs that work really well for this transposing and improvising tip that I covered in this video today.